So, Reggie, this letter then seems to be written to a church that's having a hard time mixing cultures. You know, you've got the Jews in the church, and then you've got the Gentiles, and trying to really figure out what does it mean to be the church. It's not just something that the early church dealt with, is it? I mean, we have a lot of different cultures in the church today. How should we go about blending?
Well, Graham, it is important, I think, to realize that for Paul, that whole blending of cultures was not, it wasn't secondary. It was at the heart of his gospel. And that's why he says so strongly here in Galatians 3, all those who have put on Christ, all those who have been baptized in him have put him on and are heirs. And that means there's no Jew, Gentile, male, female, slave, free. And he really did expect that to get worked out in the hard stuff of life, of Jews and Gentiles learning how to love each other, of slave and free learning how to love each other, masters and slave, slave and free, rich and poor, people from all kinds of ethnic backgrounds. And that certainly that does mean different tastes and different preferences, because part of what he was seeing was this great vision that goes back into like at the end of Psalm 22, of all the ends of the earth, all the families of the earth, as well as the faithful sons of Jacob and Israel, those who are rich, those who are poor, those who have already died, those who are not yet even being born, being this great assembly that the Messiah would bring together. Yeah, and yes, it's no different today. People are called in the skin that God gave them, with the color hair, the color eyes, the ethnic background that they have. But they are also called to relate to people who look, think, feel, speak a lot differently than they do around the person of Jesus Christ, and to have a higher loyalty than just those backgrounds.
So it's kind of like we are who God has made us to be, and each one of us being different can see a little bit different perspective of God. And when we interact together, we get a more full picture of who he is.
Well, as long as Jesus is at the center of it. I mean, I've been in fellowships throughout the course of my years as a Christian where there have been really deep differences. You know, some of us are tongue speakers and some are not tongue speakers. Some of us feel like we should only sing psalms and we shouldn't have, instruments to them, and others feel like we need to sing the hippest music around. Some of us really feel called to a ministry of evangelism, and others feel like we need to feel that we're called to ministry of social justice. Some people seem to have the gift of no matter what they do, they make money, and other people can't, they would know how to spend it if they had it, but they don't know how to make it. And it's so easy for us to develop our spiritual relationships around lines of affinity and common likes and common stations in life. But the whole call of the gospel is to orient our lives around something else. And it's not just being different. It's not just gathering people around me that are different just for the sake of difference. It's a matter of finding that which really binds, and that's the cross of Jesus Christ. And so it means learning, it means being committed to relationships of heroic forbearance and saying, I really don't, I suspect I know who you're going to vote for in this coming election. And that person stands for things that I think are totally wrong. But because you and I are brothers in Christ, I want to understand what it is about that person that attracts you. I might have something to learn from you. And, across the board, if we define our relationship primarily around the blood that we shed, the blood that we share, that Jesus shed for us, and the Spirit who taught us, as Paul says, to love one another, and in that love, finding the law be fulfilled, well, then I think we sense his pleasure, and we know the kind of community that he's called us to be. And you know what? Then we become a city on a hill, the light of which can't be hidden.